Hello and welcome to the Gooner Talk, back again with you guys for another episode of what is the Arsenal News Show. Join you every morning at 8 a.m. UK time. Hope you're doing good. Hope you're doing well. Thank you as always for being a massive part of your morning routines with me. I really appreciate everybody always tuning in. It's an absolute pleasure. Do drop a like on the video if you haven't done so already, and subscribe to the channel if you're new around here with those notifications turned on so you never miss a show. Let's jump into the chat and say morning to people. Matt G, good morning to you. To Kaiser, good morning. To Black Shine, to Amira, good morning. To Paul, to Rancid, to David, Penny Ween, good morning. To Yomi, Sanderman, we've got David, we've got Carl, good morning to Olu and Temi and Maximius and Stevie. Sarvik, Chips and Peas, who I've not seen in a while. Mr. SNLO, Panrasta, who I've also not seen in a while, and plenty of others as well. Always great to see so many regular and irregular faces in the chat box. I hope you've had a great weekend so far, and are hoping to look forward to ending in the perfect way possible with an Arsenal win at Anfield for the first time in 11 years. I know you've heard that statistic more than you've needed to, but it's just worth bringing up one more time how big of an opportunity this is to kind of put one of the biggest hoodoos of Arsenal's footballing history to bed. Right then, let's jump into the chat, not to the chat box rather. Let's jump into our stories. We'll be jumping back into the chat box shortly, don't worry. Yesterday, Manchester City absolutely smashed Southampton. Erling Haaland getting 2 goals, scoring one, probably of the best goals this season, with an acrobatic shot with his left foot. Really genuinely, I tweeted yesterday saying he's a cheat code, and he is that. Absolutely silly. The fact that there's still something like 8-9 games to go for him this season, and he's only 4 goals away, I think, from breaking the Golden Boot record. Is mad, and he will continue to break these records, it seems, the longer he stays with City. And I'm hoping that one day Real Madrid can take him away, because Man City with Haaland in their team is just silly. Just really, really silly. Meanwhile, elsewhere, Chelsea lost to Wolves in a game in which kind of, I think, maybe made people realise that it's not just Graham Potter that's the problem. Frank Lampard coming in and not having the start that he would have wanted, and that means that Chelsea remain in 11th place. But now the gap between themselves and the bottom has closed somewhat. Wolves climbing up to 12th in the table, 8 points behind Chelsea, who you assume are safe this season. But if they continue to be in the place that they are, it's going to be very, very tight come the end of the campaign, and they are slipping further and further away from those European places. They're now 7 points off of 7th place Brighton. Speaking of Brighton, you know, I've had to do a fair few rants on the show in these morning shows this season, and I find myself continually having the basis of my rants about VAR, about refereeing. By the way, VAR is not the problem. The system of being able to review decisions, the system of being able to review penalties, red cards, fouls, offsides, that's not the problem. The problem is the people behind the decision-making of VAR, and they're just not good enough. They are just not good enough. The genuine, legitimate person in me wants to always lean towards talking about a person's ability rather than any ulterior motive. And they're making it very difficult, very difficult indeed. But continually, I will stick by my principle of saying they are just not good enough. They are very, very bad at what they do. And continually, we keep seeing mistakes in the Premier League over and over and over again. I retweeted a Brighton supporter who called up TalkSport yesterday to kind of just ask the question, what's the point? What's the point of even watching football, of getting invested in football, of continuing to watch a club play in the Premier League? Because we're not playing on an even surface, because the officials cannot guarantee that there is an even playing field for every single player, every single team, every single manager, every single club. It can't be guaranteed, because some games officials are good and make the right decisions, and some games they don't. And some games they just continually to make awful choices, like we saw yesterday with Højbjerg clearly fouling Kairo Mitoma. And I'll tell you what, we talk about the joke of apology forms for the likes of Rob Holding, Gabriel, people like this of this season, but genuinely, they'll be running out of ink at PGMOL for the number of apology letters they're going to have to send to Premier League clubs, players, managers, etc., because it's just disgraceful and disgustingly bad. And when we travel to Anfield today, we just have to keep our fingers crossed that we take the game away from any potential refereeing decisions. We've got to just absolutely pray that the officials aren't going to get involved in this game. And by the way, I don't want to tempt fate, but Paul Tierney is the referee today, and Arsenal have lost the last 5 games that Paul Tierney has refereed, which is mad. He refereed our game against Man United earlier in the season at Old Trafford, and he refereed our game against Man City in the FA Cup earlier this season. So I'm not holding out much hope from a refereeing standpoint for today, but we just got to try and do our business, play our game. Records, again, are made to be broken. So let's keep those fingers crossed that we can just take the game away from the officials. Now, Leicester are closing in on Jesse Marsch to take over at the Foxes until the end of the campaign. Of course, Arsenal have already played home and away to Leicester, but Manchester City, our title rivals, of course, will still have to play against Leicester very soon. I think it might even be their next game in the Premier League. So that's one to look out for, and how Jesse Marsch might save Leicester. He also obviously has a problem like Youri Tielemans to solve, which links into Arsenal as well, and how that might be different come the summer, whose contract runs out. It is expected he will leave, but from my perspective, I don't understand or see why we would see Youri Tielemans move to Arsenal, but maybe I'm out the know on this one. There was no sign of Saliba or Nketiah in any of the training photos that were uploaded. I combed through them to the best of my ability, looking in the background, looking in the blurry figures in the perspective part of the out of focus areas of the photos. Could not spot either Saliba or Nketiah to give us any kind of indication that either player will be involved in today's squad. We've so far seen no rumours to suggest that, unless they've come out whilst I'm recording. But so far, I don't think we've seen any rumours that either player has travelled to Liverpool, and if there's any indication either of them moving up there with the team. So we'll keep our eyes peeled. Maybe there's been suggestions that you've seen in the chat box that you'll let me know, but I've personally not seen anything. Noel says that he saw Saliba's leg in one of the photos. That's some eerily accurate leg knowledge. No, but fair play to you, mate. If you think you saw Saliba's leg, I'll defer to you. But from my perspective, I've not seen either of them in any of the photos that we saw come out in yesterday's training session. Now, I can confirm that Arsenal will indeed be wearing their black iconic kit in today's game, of course, with the graphics that have been uploaded by the Arsenal social media team. I wrote a piece 2 days ago, a little bit of a light-hearted joke about Arsenal will be losing one of their most iconic figures in just 9 games, obviously talking about the black away kit. And the photo I used, obviously, was always going to be a player which looked like they were saying goodbye in the black kit to kind of superimpose the effect of it being the black kit that we were saying goodbye to. And so I chose Granit Xhaka because there was a really good picture of him and Arteta kind of hugging in the embrace of actually more so the kit. But the amount of people that thought I was talking about Granit Xhaka leaving the club, admittedly, I can see why people may have thought that, but the whole joke of the piece was around the black kit and the fact that we won't have the kit anymore this season. But my goodness, I was getting pelters for writing that piece and for using that picture as well. Look, I apologise immediately if you thought I was trying to deceive. I certainly wasn't. It was a light-hearted piece about the black away kit. Yeah, it was quite funny. It was quite funny. But yeah, a lot of people got very angry with that piece, but it is what it is. I want you to read the piece at the end of the day because I put time and effort into writing it. But yeah, it was rather amusing to see the reaction. I'm not going to lie, because if you've read 99.9% of my other pieces, that's not my style at all. So, but it was just something I couldn't resist doing, was writing about the black kit, because it just is such an amazing piece of artistic brilliance of a football shirt. Okay, let's move, of course, to let you know that this is a bit of a strange one to tell you about this prize, because there's one ticket. There's one ticket left. But of course, with that competition still running, there is indeed just the one ticket left. It's still there. There's a link in the description. Get going and get it for a signed Leandro Trossard shirt. There's also obviously more information to come about the new prizes that we'll talk about tomorrow. But yes, indeed, there is just one ticket left to get a ticket to try and win a signed Leandro Trossard shirt. So best of luck to everybody that enters the competition, and UK only, of course. But yeah, just do indeed try your best and grab that ticket if you can. Right then, let's go to part 2 and your questions right after this. Okay, then. Let's jump into the chat. Yesterday arrived a package in the post, of which I'll be taking to America with me for Chicago, which is in scarily a week's time. So 2 days and a week from now, I'll be heading over to the US. Looking forward to seeing as many of our US-based listeners as I can in our live podcast with the Arsenal Vision boys. It's going to be a lot of fun. Of course, Mike, Sophie, John from TGT is also going to be there too. Really looking forward to it. It's going to be great. But a special bit of TGT merch is going to be released for that event that will eventually be available for those in the wider community as well. But I'm looking forward to it. It looks good. I'm very happy with it. But I'm looking forward to getting out there and seeing so many of you. Do let me know indeed if you are going. Drop me a DM on social media, and I'll because obviously it's much easier for me if you come up to me and I'm like, oh, that's your name, because the amount of times I'll head to the Emirates, and that was a great thing that happened the other week. I think it would have been the Leeds game. I was walking to the press entrance by the Armory, and this guy with his wife stopped me and went, "Podcast guy," and he was obviously tapping his wife on the shoulder. It's the podcast guy. And she was like, "Yeah, I know." I couldn't recognise obviously my voice blasting through speakers every morning at 8 a.m. But yeah, do drop me a message if you're going. It's always great meeting listeners and viewers of the channel, and it's great to see so many of you. So I look forward to it. So Nicholas says, "I'll be at the Aaron Chicago show." It's going to be great. I'm looking forward to it. I think Aaron Chicago is going to turn into a little bit of TGT merch one day. Let's go to RRM, who says, "Tom, you have never read my questions, but I'll ask anyway." Well, timing of that. Aren't Caicedo and McAllister something we should go for? I'll pick them over Rice or Mount any day. It's ironic, isn't it? Because Caicedo and McAllister, obviously, I think of as more players that will be playing in the eights and the kind of either side of the left eights, and Rice actually more so as the DM player. So I don't know why you would pick either of them, to be honest, over Rice. I mean, statistically, Rice is the better player. I've gone into exceptional detail in using evidence to show people that Rice is the superior player. So, yeah, certainly having a look forward to that. Omar says, "Question, Tom, you've never read any of my questions." That's not a question, mate. That's not a question, mate. Martin says, "What really annoys me is the geographical northern bias of referees. I think there is one ref from the south, yet at least 50% of the clubs are southern-based. Yeah, there should be greater diversity amongst the location, amongst the background of referees to get the best possible collection of referees. The fact that it's not spread out is going to mean that you're not going to get an even field of representatives, unfortunately." Omar says, "I'm not going to lie, but I have a bad feeling about today." Don't say that. That's not what we want to hear. We want to hear positivity. George says, "Greetings from Texas. Tommy kept Salah really quiet last time. Zinchenko will be off on his little ballads that he does. Gabriel covers him and leaves holding, or 2, Xhaka stays conservative and covers for the left back." What are your thoughts? I think we're just going to play our game, George. It is going to be dangerous at times. There are going to be opportunities for Liverpool on the break. There were for them against Man City. But if we approach the game like Man City approached their game against Liverpool, I have faith that we can replicate that type of performance. Because if you consider the fact that defensively they are very susceptible and they are going to try and attack because they need to try and win, ultimately. They need to try and get a win in this game. We just need to try and make sure that we play our game, do as best as we can to use the vulnerabilities that they have against them and ride the wave of the Anfield crowd somewhat. I think an early goal in this game for Arsenal would be absolutely definitive, but we'll wait and see. Paul says, "Why do we have to change kits every season? Surely if we have a really popular kit, as in this season's away kit, it makes sense to retain it as the sales and revenue are going to stay high. Guaranteed money." We have in the past kept kits for more than one season. It used to be the norm back in the day. But even more recently in the 2010s, we definitely kept kits for more than one season. So I don't really know why we have to change. I suppose they think it's going to be more money, but I'd argue that if you just re-release the black kit for this season, it would arguably still sell more kits than the actual new away kit might sell, which, by the way, if you haven't seen the yellow zebra kit, it's terrible. It's an awful kit. I'll probably still end up getting it because it's potentially a title. It's a kit you can get the Premier League title badge on it if indeed we go and win, touch wood. So, but yeah, no, it's not nice. It's not nice at all. Abby, tea or coffee? Tea all day long, mate. Akmal says, why is it that most refs are from the north? I don't know. I don't actually have a clue why most of them come from the north. It just seems to be the way forwards. Noel says, Tom, do you think Rice's availability is a big reason we want him, considering he's played every single minute this season, has barely gotten any injuries? Maybe that is a part of a factor in it, but I think the priority is always going to be the player's ability, and certainly Rice is the reason why he's the number one target, because statistically and from an eye test perspective, he comes out better than Caicedo and McAllister, as two examples we were given earlier. But obviously Jude Bellingham, even though he plays slightly further forward, would still be my midfield priority, but I don't think that's going to be possible, unfortunately. Stephen says, Tom, this is our year and nothing's going to stop us. See, I appreciate the positivity. That's what I want to see. Daniel says, how do we know the yellow tennis ball kit? It's a great way of describing it as well. It's legit. Dan, we don't obviously know for 100% certain, but let's just say that from all of the signs that I'm getting, it seems that is the one. I'm really hoping that they're all wrong, but from the signs that we're getting at the moment, it seems that is the kit. I hope that's wrong. I really hope that's wrong, but it just seems that is indeed the one. The home kit, by the way, I really like. I really like the home kit. Much better than this season's home kit. Much, much better. I love the gold aspect on it. I know that some people aren't a fan of that, and that's fine. But for me, I love the home kit. I think the home kit's really nice. I just can't stand collars. That's why I don't really like this season's home kit. It's got a collar on it. It just makes me feel like it's too formal. It's too, I don't know what the way to describe it. It's just, yeah. The retro collars, I don't mind. Like from the old kits, there's some really nice ones, but modern day collars, I'm just not a fan of. Just not a fan of at all. Ragnar says, also, what kind of fee do you think Juventus would ask for Kulusevski in the situation given their current financial troubles? I don't know, but certainly his form has dipped somewhat, but I think maybe that's part and parcel of being part of Spurs. Look, we were interested in Kulusevski back in January of 22. Is he a player that I'd like to see come in and bring competition to Saka? Yeah, I think he is a player that I'd like to see come in and give competition to Saka. It would be hilarious if we got him in. Said to be an Arsenal fan when he was younger. And I don't know what the spiel is with the whole obligation to buy, option to buy in his contract at Spurs. I think there's something to do with them qualifying for the Champions League. But if they don't do that, I think it changes something regarding the clause, but I'd have to get that clarified. But yeah, there's some interesting things to be considering. Mohammed says, after watching him a lot, Sufyan Amrabat is a world-class number 6. I don't think so, mate. Amrabat is a very good player. But if we're talking about players of a world-class level, he hasn't done what he needs to do for me to be categorizing him as world-class. So I'm going to have to disagree with you. He's not that world-class player as of yet. If he was to move to somewhere like an Arsenal and be doing this on a regular occasion, doing it at Champions League level, doing it at even a level in Serie A, and obviously playing for Fiorentina, but not for me. Not a world-class player at this moment in time. Very good, but I don't think he's on the level of some of the world-class number 6s that are out there. Like Thomas Partey is world-class as a number 6. Rodri is a world-class number 6, and Amrabat is not producing the performances of the same level of these guys. So for me, not yet, but potentially one day. But 26-year-old, it's still got time to become that level. And I did watch every single Morocco game at the World Cup, so I've seen plenty of him. And he was very good at the World Cup, but no, Mohamed, he's not world-class yet. Not world-class yet. Casemiro, another example of a world-class number 6. El Neni, another example of Daniel being silly. So yeah, Zana says, do you think Adidas or any manufacturer would use social media as a barometer of a kit if it needed to be reworked or changed before releasing? Now, these kits are obviously created well ahead of when they're released, like we're talking months and months and months in advance, and eventually we see, that's why we see leaks come out about these kits, because they're produced so far down the line. But I think that it's probably set in stone at this point. I'd be surprised if it changed it, but yeah, I can't see that. I can't see them changing the kit, even if it was based upon a reaction that was really bad. But maybe I'm underestimating the power of fans in this example, but I can't see it. And Zuzu says a draw at Anfield won't be a bad result, provided that we don't lose at Man City. And it is that proviso. It really is that proviso that we don't lose at City. If we draw this game, I'm going to be okay with it. I'm not going to be pleased. I'm going to be okay with it. I'll be like, okay, I'll take it. But I'm not going to be like happy about the fact that we don't win today, because I think we need to win the game. If we want to win the league, I think we have to win either this game or the game at the Etihad. I can't see us losing both and still winning the league. I can't see that happening. So yeah, we need to win today, and we just need to keep winning. The only game I think we can afford to lose is the City game. I think we have to win the rest of them. So beating Chelsea, beating Newcastle, beating Liverpool, we have to do all of them. We have to win every game if we want to win the league. But, I've got really good faith that we can do it. I'm optimistic. I'm positive about this. I think we can. I think we can get a result against City. So let's wait and see what happens. But it's a big day today, very much so. And let's hope that we can get the result that we need. Let's go to Gunner Dude says, in response to Zander, the leak of the potential kits to see what the reaction is throughout the year before they release it. Yeah, of course. I think leaks sometimes come out, obviously, because people want to scoop and people want to be the first to reveal information. That's one of the big downsides of journalism, I think, in the world today, is that there's more care in being first than there is in being right. And I think if Saliba plays today, there's going to be obviously an element of that side of things, of the need to be first about reporting that he wouldn't be available for this weekend, for instance. I've not heard anything to suggest that he's been ruled out of the weekend yet at all. Yeah, sure, it's fine saying he's a doubt. It's fine saying it's unlikely he might play. But, earlier in the week, if there was any suggestion that Saliba categorically wouldn't be playing in this game, I think it's more guesswork than anything else, because it's a day-to-day assessment of the player. Whether he trained yesterday, we don't know if he did or not, because the club have kept things very quiet regarding training, and I'm sure they wouldn't have shown anything not to give any hints away to Liverpool. We have to hope. Alex says, Tom, I had the opportunity to read your article on FL about the Arsenal black kit. Then you'll understand my emotion towards it. I'm gutted. I'm absolutely gutted that it's going to be going. Because it, for me, is if Arsenal go on to win the league, touch wood, it's an iconic kit that has to be treasured forever. I might even take it to the Emirates to get a gold patch put on it if indeed the situation arises that we can do that. Christopher says, Tom, which game do you think is the toughest? Liverpool away, City away, or Newcastle away? City away. Without a shadow of a doubt, City away is the hardest game that we have this season. They're the best team in the league besides ourselves. So, yeah. Gunnar Dude says, Saliba starting. You heard it here first. Again, it's just that need to be first. Being first has unfortunately overtaken being right. And I hope that's something that I never have to do. So, for instance, like the whispers around the Chelsea game being moved, there's been suggestions that it might have. We've had that information double checked, and we were told that a decision's not 100% been made. That was a couple of days ago. And so I could tweet out with a suggestion saying that, the Chelsea game is going to be moved to the Tuesday, just because there's a chance that might happen, because, I might get some credit, or I might tweet it out. And then if it turns out happening, people will go, oh, wow, you must have connections. And yeah, sure, I have some connections, but I've not been given any indication that that's a guarantee that will happen yet. There's certainly discussions, I've been told, that are going on around that, because you've got the Youth Cup game being played on the Saturday night at the Emirates. And then there's a problem with the policing in midweek as well, because there's preparations for the King coronation the following weekend. So it's very difficult to know whether or not that game's going to be moved. But why the Youth Cup game would take precedent over the Premier League game, I'm not so sure. So we'll have to wait and see. But we'll hopefully fans that have booked tickets, hotels, travel won't find themselves having to change things or miss the game entirely, which would be an absolute travesty. So fingers crossed everything works out for people. But as I say, there have been these rumours that the Chelsea game might be moved. But I've been told that it's still, and as I was told 2 days ago, everything's still a bit up in the air about that. So let's wait and see. Akmal, Chelsea game moved. You heard it here first. You see what I mean? It's just the desire to be right and the desire to be first. So much better than the desire to be right. Natji says, what impact will Mick McCarthy leaving Blackpool have? You know, it shows you my focus on Arsenal. It's so great that I'm barely even watching. About things. Blackpool manager leaves championship strugglers after less than 3 months in charge. Mutual consent was the reason behind that. Hopefully a positive one, Matt. I'm hoping it's going to be positive for the reason as to why we'll hopefully be having our loan roundup next week. I delayed it a week because I want to try and get the opportunity to see to get you as much expert insight as I can on the players. But yeah, next week, hopefully we'll bring you the loan update and we'll hear about some of the thoughts, fingers crossed, maybe of Charlie Patino and not having Mick McCarthy in charge. But certainly I don't think it did him any favours that much, really, to be honest, if indeed that was the case. Let's go to boom, 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 boom. Steve says, off subject, but yesterday a car stopped and reversed up to me and asked if I wanted a lift as I was carrying some heavy shopping bags. It was the first outing in my TGT cap. It must be a sign. I mean, my recommendation always is don't get into a stranger's car. That would be my first recommendation always. But if it was a genuine gesture of goodwill, maybe the cap is bringing with it some positivity in your lives. I hope that's the case. That'd be great if it was. Yeah, my recommendation certainly, Steve, would always be, please don't get into strangers' cars. That's always the way forwards. Anyway, we're going to wrap the show up there. Thank you so much, guys, for listening in. I don't think we're going to have a show this evening because, of course, we're bringing you a show tomorrow morning reacting to the game today, unless I find time to do so. But I will be covering the game, unfortunately, from home. I won't be travelling up to Anfield, which sucks, but it's a very busy press box, so I couldn't get in for this one. But indeed, we'll be covering the game. Live blog will be on football.london, giving my reaction. We'll also have a match reaction show on the Arsenal way after the game, which I hopefully should be able to do. And yes, tomorrow morning, I'll be back with you guys to react fully with you all about today's game. Let's keep those fingers crossed because a win would be glorious. And yeah, it would mean a hell of a lot if we're able to do it. Thank you for listening. I'll see you again very, very soon. Have a fantastic day. And as always, up the Arsenal. Come on, you Gooners.